Evening to everyone. Thank you. Welcome to the Global Sojourns Giving Circle Donor Call. I'm Paige Hassan and a board member here in Portland, and helping me today with tech support is wonderful Wendy in Pretoria and wonderful Devin in Cape Town, where it is very cold. You can see them, they're all bundled up. Today we have two recent travelers who I'm so pleased to talk about them. We're pleased to feature two recent travelers to Zimbabwe, Heidi Johnson Bixby, a GSGC board member, and Daron Deonier, a GSGC supporter from The Difference, a beautiful clothing boutique in Vancouver, Washington. Heidi and Daron visited GSGC sponsored clubs and met with the mentors, which was an amazing experience. And they were able to go on safari. In this hour, we will be sharing some of their many experiences through a slide presentation and a conversation. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Heidi and Daron. And just a reminder, if you have questions, put them in the chat as we go along.
Great, thanks, Paige. We have a lot to get through, so we do welcome questions, put them in the chat, but hopefully we can get through everything. So I have been fortunate to be a board member from the beginning, and I have been to visit the club several times. But it was really a pleasure to bring Daron and then three other people, but three of a family with us, which you'll see pictures of. And it'd been about 6 years since I had been back to see many of the mentors, and we got to see about 8 different ones and catch up and hear how things are going, which we'll show pictures of and tell stories. Hopefully everyone can see the slideshow. Which starts off with certainly the welcome, but for the GSGC community, bound together in our commitment to gender equality and strong communities. And that's what we had the ability to not only see with the kids and the different interactions, but also talk to the mentors and see how they are working in their different communities. On this map, you can see the 3 different dots that we started down here in Johannesburg, really just landing in Johannesburg, spending a night there. And then we went up to Victoria Falls, and for the safari, just went over a little bit to Hwange National Park. But most of the clubs that we visited were in the Victoria Falls area on the Zimbabwe side. Victoria Falls being right at the border of Zambia and Zimbabwe. We did not go over to Zambia, but we were fortunate enough to have a couple mentors come out over and cross the border to join us for a gathering, which we'll talk about. So in the picture, you'll see Daron and I here in the background, and then Rich, Heather, and Madeline, a family that joined us. Madeline is just graduated college and starting her master's to be a social studies high school teacher. So this experience for her was really wonderful as well, as she kind of embarks on educating the youth of our future. Daron, do you want to say anything at this point?
Well, I have to tell you that when you arrive in Victoria Falls, there's this wonderful omnipresent sound of the waterfall that just sort of follows you everywhere. It's just this hum in the background. And it sets the stage, I think, for just how far away you are from home, because it just inherently feels more peaceful when you arrive in Victoria Falls. And it's absolutely lush and green around the waterfall. It's really, really stunning. And Heidi had mentioned, she's like, I love the smell of Africa. I'm like, what would that possibly be? And each place has its own distinctive sort of zeitgeist of what you can expect. And in Victoria Falls, it was the omnipresent hum of the waterfall. And then because it was so cold, there was this really light campfire smell everywhere because people were burning wood in their stoves and whatnot to keep warm. So there's all these layers of sensory you experience. And that was kind of a really nice welcome.
Daron did mention it was cold. So this was the first 2 weeks of June, and we were headed into their winter. So the mornings were about 40 degrees, and it maybe got up to 75 in the afternoon, but it was also windy, which made it cold. So we were bundled up most of the time. I wanted to highlight Batonka Lodge, which is where we stayed for the time that we were in Victoria Falls, which was really nice home away from home. It was a lovely little small boutique place, and they had a restaurant, and they had a swimming pool, but the people there, as everywhere that you go, the people were so welcoming and wonderful, and just very, very lovely place to be. So this is Heather, Daron, and Madeline. One of the first things that we did was we took a group of mentors and the kids out on a conservation safari. And so this was 6 o'clock in the morning and cold. So they provided ponchos to keep us warm. So we'll get to that. So I wanted to put up this map, which is available on the website, but it talks about where we are doing work in Zambia, Zimbabwe, and Madagascar, and the different clubs that we support. I put a red star by the clubs that we were able to visit on this trip. So Sasanki Trust, you will hear about, the Tikobani Trust, Girls Time, the Believe clubs, Way with Sunga, who's on the call today, Rise and Shine, with Svei and Shirai. So we got to see a lot of the clubs and the kids on this trip, which was, we really appreciate them making the time for us, but also participating in our learning and our experience of their clubs. So this is on the website if you want to look further and read about each of the clubs. So the Giving Circle, of course, empowering girls and strengthening our communities, it's so much more. And that is part of what we got to see on this trip is, yes, they are mentorship clubs, but what does that really mean on the day-to-day for these girls and boys, and the impact that we're having and the experience that they have, especially coming through COVID. It was so, what's the word that I want? It was so reassuring, I think, Daron, you might have a word, to see how these clubs strengthened the families and the community, not just the kids in the club, but to be a resource for the entire family and therefore the entire community, which is the base of our model, knowing that if we strengthen those kids, it strengthens the family and in turn strengthens the community. So talking to the different mentors, and we'll share some of the specifics, but seeing the impact that they're having was extremely encouraging.
And it, to your point, Heidi, it just really shows how strong the roots are of the relationships that the mentors have with the kids, but also into that tertiary layer of not even just their families, but extending out into the communities. And that's why those roots are so strong. And even going against COVID, it actually made, in a lot of ways, things even stronger in those dynamics, which was great to see.
This is a beautiful graphic that talks about here empowering a girl and benefiting society on multiple levels, that not only are you strengthening her individual life and her path forward, but in turn the family and the opportunity that her education and her skill sets being developed, and her strength and confidence being developed benefits the family, which in turn benefits the community. Statistics show that if you educate a girl, they will tend to come back and stay within the community. And so you get the benefit of them coming back and starting businesses or being employed, and that in turn helps the community.
And that was actually a comment that we heard quite a bit when we were talking to the girls about what are your hopes, your dreams, your aspirations for every single one of them, and the young boys included. There was the hope and the dream that they had for themselves, but that hope and dream came back to connect to their family, their community, and others around them. For example, wanting to start their own business, to come back and employ others in their village. So that was a very common theme and thread that you could hear very organically from the kids, not just in a study per se.
Well, Rich, one of our travel partners at the Sasonki Club, he was talking to one of the boys, and one of the boys wanted to start a clothing company or be in kind of fashion. And Daron, being in that field, they have a wonderful conversation. But Rich was talking to him, and he's like, I want to do this, and I want to learn, and I want to come back, and I want to start a company that employ people. And Rich said to one of the mentors, "Is this kid for real? Like, is he just saying this?" And the mentor, Prosper, the mentor, he's like, "No, this is like a major passion of his. This is what he thinks about and what he works towards. It's not just a line. This is really what he wants to do." So it was exciting to see that passion. We believe every child deserves the opportunity to live a life of dignity. And what we had the opportunity to hear about are the challenges with the level of poverty and unemployment, particularly in Victoria Falls, which unemployment's at 90%. And the COVID, travel is their main industry. And so having COVID kind of stop all of that, even though things are starting to come back online, it is still, as we well know, very difficult there. So the clubs are an opportunity for the kids to come to what we call a safe space where they know they have the support. And that's everything from, I had a hard day, I am struggling with my studies, I'm not getting along with my parents, I need to, I want to do something and I don't know how, I need internet, I don't have it at home, I need to come and have internet. So the clubs are a safe space that is allowing them to know if they need something. The mentor might not be able to provide it, but they're going to walk them through how they might find the resource, how they might deal with it. And that then gets them on a positive mindset and path toward making things possible for themselves. I'm going to skip through this. Our motto is, I see you, I hear you, I believe in you. And I'm doing this because we have t-shirts that say that. And yeah. a lot of the girls have t-shirts, and at the difference, we actually produce some t-shirts that people here could buy, and proceeds of those t-shirts goes to the Giving Circle. But that mantra of I see you, I hear you, I believe in you is creating that safe space and recognizing individuals. So as the mentors connect and listen to the girls and boys, oh yeah, Paige, you have one there, and it has the Giving Circle on the back. What we're wanting to do is empower them, and that in turn transforms their life. And what we've seen with the replication is not only each, member who's entered into a girls club, like we start a new club and there's more girls that are benefited, but we also have now, having done this for a decade or more, we have girls who have graduated as alumni and they come back and they help. And so they're continuing the cycle and expanding the circle. Daron, you want to talk about Mercy and this visit?
Oh, absolutely. So Mercy has this really lovely voice, and she has this big, beautiful smile, and she just has this wonderful, warm energy about her. So the moment you meet her, she makes you feel like you're already part of her family. So we got to spend quite a bit of time together. And one of the initial days that we spent a little more quality time, she took us around town and showed us a few of the places that were not, quite so touristy. And we stopped into this fabric shop, and also I believe they called it a tailor shop because dresses and other things were being made there. And it was a woman, and her name is escaping me, I'm so sorry, but this is a woman who, when Mercy needed to find work many years prior, she gave Mercy the opportunity and really mentored her at that time in helping her with her sewing skills. And so it was wonderful to see their connection and the love that they had for each other and just that mutual admiration. And the shop itself was beyond inspiring. I mean, the textile prints are absolutely incredible. I wore a shirt today that would sort of evoke a little bit of what you would see in that store, for example. And so Mercy was able to talk to us a little bit about her personal journey and how she really valued mentorship. And this was even outside of GSGC, but that other layer of mentorship and how much that really affected her life when she was a few years younger as well. So really a absolutely beautiful experience.
Well, and so what Mercy, because of her skill set of not only being a mentor and being a, a counselor and a resource for the girls, but because she has that skill set, she's teaching the girls how to sew. So she's passing that on now to her girls. And Daron, it was really great. Daron, you want to talk about what you were able to pass on?
Yeah, so we looked at some different business plan options for the idea of making items that could then be sold to produce revenue for GSGC and items that would be attractive to travelers and something that could be brought into the various lodges where there's little essential boutiques that are within the lodges. So we worked on that and what those items would look like and what that business plan would look like. We also, I talked to Mercy quite a bit about the option of making patterns so that once she has a design that really works well for her, whether that's a bag or an apron, she can then make a pattern, showed her how to do that so that she can replicate and really cut back on the time as well. We also looked at some more finishing as far as how to finish seams and things like that so that the quality level would increase. And she was very, very receptive, took a lot of notes and put things into immediate action. And that's something that I saw throughout the kids and the mentors, that when you have information to give, not only do they receive it, they put it to use and they're so grateful. And so you can really see action happen quickly versus feeling like you're just having a conversation, which is really inspiring to see.
Yeah. So the other thing that we did while we were in town, this is the ponchos that I mentioned earlier. Early morning, we went out on safari. And so Procedure is here. She's one of the mentors. I don't know if you can see my cursor, it's maybe small. Prosper here, and then Mercy, who we just talked about, and then two of the girls came out with us. And so we were in two Jeeps. There is a national park right there in town, so we didn't have to go far. The girls actually traveled in quite a ways for them to join us. So they were getting up at 5 in the morning to travel at least an hour to come in and join us. So they had made a real commitment to be there. But they had never been out on safari. Certainly animals come through town, but to go out in a Jeep and go on safari was a new experience. And so that was really exciting. Here you'll see this big elephant right near the Jeep. So we had a nice live encounter with an elephant up close. He even raised his trunk and made his trumpeting noise, which was exciting. So the two pictures here with Mercy and you may or may not be able to see the fineness of the wire, but what's happening, they call this a conservation safari because what we learned about is the massive amount of poaching that has been always happening, significantly increased though during COVID, because there's kind of three categories of poaching. Those that are trying to catch animals just for their own meat and feeding their family. Then there's the category of people who are doing it to sell hides or sell the meat. And then there's trying to catch the elephants or rhinos for selling tusks and horns. So there's kind of different layers of the poaching. Charles Brightman is extremely well known for his conservation and starting anti-poaching units in the training, which has been operating since 1999. But they showed us the wire that people take from fences and different places. They take it and then they create a hoop with pretty much a big hoop that an animal would go through, and then it's pretty much a noose. So it's wired with a loop that would, once that tightens around them, it would capture them. And so they were explaining that, and the patrols are out there going around thousands of acres of land, mostly near the border and other areas that tend to have a lot of the people coming through to do this. But they really have slowed it down. Certainly hasn't eliminated, but having this awareness and capturing, going around and collecting the wires is helped save thousands of animals. And in our demonstration, we have also talked for the Giving Circle about conservation and the environment, because these communities are dependent upon the travel and this wildlife. And if the wildlife goes extinct because of poaching and other things like that, this community does not have the livelihood that they need. So the kind of the full circle is really important for us to pay attention to. And also thinking about the kids, when you think about the animals, if someone doesn't have their basic needs met, they're not going to worry about an animal. And so for these kids who are in these clubs, for them to have the resources of their own stability, their own sense of vision for their life, and being able to see that path forward versus struggling to just get by every day. If they can get to a point of seeing their path forward, seeing a future for themselves, then they have the capacity to care about the animals and learn the importance of that and make an effort toward their sustainability as well. So it really is a full circle. This was very inspiring. We're standing under a baobab tree. Baobab trees, which are up here in the far right-hand corner, are very sacred in Africa. And I don't know, Paige, if you know this, we didn't see baobabs. I don't see them everywhere. They're in Zim, I know for sure, but because they're here, but they're not everywhere. They're beautiful trees though. And so, yes, we saw a ton of wildlife. The lilac-breasted roller, warthogs, giraffe, impala, elephant, all kinds of animals. And this is just, in the national park that is right, a few miles near town. So, want to talk about the falls, Daron?
Oh, sure. These are some of my favorite photos to look back on, because I kept thinking about my conversation with Rich, telling him he looked like a walking banana because he was, he's about 6'4" and he fully filled out the shell of his cover, and he had his backpack on. So he was just this perfect cylindrical yellow unit. But we had a lot of fun. This was another one where we had Jada and Abigail with us, and we also Procedure was there with us, and Prosper and Spay, and it was wonderful to spend that time as well. And Procedure's husband as well was our guide, and he was just very, very adept at his job. So there was a couple layers to that. It was great for the girls to see someone in a profession that was a little out of the box and related to tourism, because Jada wants to be a guide. That is something that she is working towards. So always wonderful to have that in action example and be able to speak to that and experience it. The sound of the falls was absolutely deafening and incredible. We had this immense double, triple rainbow happening that you can see here, which made it feel all the more special. The mist coming off was completely, ruining your hair and hydrating you at the same time. It was great. But there was a lot of wonderful conversations that happened on this excursion. Just organically, Jada and Abigail kind of branched out with Madeline, and they were having this very robust conversation, which was very interesting to see, because we had spent, much of the day with Jada and Abigail earlier in the safari, and it was really hard to have to draw out conversation with them at that time. So it was interesting to see that once they felt that they had a little bit of a comfort zone of someone that was maybe closer to their own age, they opened up and talked about everything under the sun, and they were so interested and engaged. And that type of engagement, that type of trust and vulnerability continued on throughout our experience with them over the next week or so when we were spending time with the clubs. So it just really goes to show how important it can be to create those dynamics in those smaller safe spaces, and start on common ground and then keep building from there. So it was a really special day. I got to have some wonderful conversations with Procedure. We got some one-on-one time, and the pictures are beyond wonderful, as you can see.
We joked with Madeline, she was going to have everyone's WhatsApp contact in her phone.
She did.
Yeah. And so the Victoria Falls is at its high season right now. So it was just a massive amount of water. So really fun to do that. This was all on the same day. So we did the conservation safari in the morning. We did Victoria Falls in the afternoon. And then for the evening, we went on a riverboat cruise. So we just had dinner on a boat. It was a couple hours. And keep in mind, the days of light are all year round, pretty much 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And so we got on the boat maybe around 5:30 or 5:30, and got to see sunset. On the banks of the Far River was this elephant. So it was fun to just watch him chomp away at the grass and, make his noise. Here on the left side are Sunga and Rachel. Sunga's on the call today, which is great to see. Sunga and Rachel are from Livingston over in Zambia. So they made the border crossing to come over and spend the cruise with us. And then they stayed over and joined the conversation the next morning, which was just lovely. And then Prosper is here on the end of the seating. So that was just a lovely time together. This is just a graphic that also kind of shows the mentorship that we provide is giving them a pathway out of poverty, to give them the confidence, identify their talents, provide the resources and the connections to make sure that they're getting the education, and making sure that they're sticking with things and studying and giving them the support that they need. And also stressing the importance of financial independence from the idea of, what do you want to do? What kind of work? What might that look like? Where might you get that type of work? What kind of education do you need? And so the mentorship is giving them a pathway out of poverty, versus often the girls will end up with being pregnant, drop out of school, not finish, pretty much have a subsistence life and be financially dependent on the family or community. The success in this is also a testament to our mentors. One of the big conversations that we had, was the mentors have, and I would say our goal has always been to find mentors who are passionate about this work, for sure, but that they are also people who can navigate working with the headmasters at the school. They navigate working with the community and where there is influence, that they are not working in isolation, just having a mentorship club. Like, our mentors are people who think beyond the club and build those relationships with the various people who will bring support to the girls and boys. So our mentors are phenomenal people. And our goal has always been that we want to empower the mentors who are local people in their local communities, all with, different, all have different community issues and, school issues or whatever it is. I mean, they're all doing it slightly different because you have to be accommodating to whatever is going on locally. But our mentors are people who are phenomenally talented at navigating that to bring the best to these kids. And for us, you know, we're not coming in and telling them how to do their thing or what to do. We provide resources, we provide ideas. What have you thought about this? Or we might provide handouts or tools or things that they would consider offering, and then everyone has to adjust it based on what is appropriate for their club and the age of their kids. But I really can't say enough about the mentors, and it was so nice that Daron was able to meet so many of them, because across the board, everyone is just phenomenally talented.
And it was really evident when you spent even a small amount of time with the kids, and you know, maybe you're spending some time with someone who's in that 14 to 16-year-old age bracket, or maybe it's the 17 to 19. And it was very, very evident that there was such an immense amount of growth that was happening in a very short amount of time that they were spending in the clubs, because you could hear it in their voice, you see it in their posture, in their ability to really stand up and talk about what they wanted to present for themselves, and also just how distilled and strong their passion was for what they wanted to do in life. And they wouldn't have that passion if they didn't have the vision for possibility. And so the mentors in these clubs are really, you know, there's this beautiful gardenscape that's happening, and they're planting the seeds, but they're also continually tending and watering and really ensuring that those seeds can grow. And that happens through the consistency in the clubs and having that safe space. And also the mentors, to what Heidi's point is, they have this amazing energy and passion for what they're doing, that the buy-in will just happen from being near them. It's really wonderful to see.
So the Giving Circle, initially we had Rose of Charity as a partner, and from Rose of Charity, Nika, Procedure, and Spay and Shirai, I'm not sure, they volunteered for Rose of Charity, but these are three of our main mentors. You know, that they all have clubs. And from there, each of them have multiple clubs now. And now, I mean, it just the exponential growth of this and the demand for the clubs. That was one of the things we talked about as well, is other kids want to come to this because they see what the kids in the clubs, that they see the growth of the other kids. And keep in mind, there might be you know, a sandwich or something provided occasionally, but the kids aren't getting anything. We don't provide food. We don't provide kind of basic needs. They might get a t-shirt. The kids are coming because they want the knowledge, they want the support, they want the experience that we're providing. And so the demand is quite high, and we're having to turn people away, because although we don't dictate how the clubs are run, we do say success really is best if there's 20 to 25 kids. A mentor in a club can only handle so many kids, and you want those kids also to be, you know, to know each other and have it be a tight group. So that's one thing that we do have to turn kids away, because there's just not capacity for the mentors to have more. We just are at kind of capacity for the moment, and also the funding for that goes with it. But having done this for over a decade now, the continued success and the acknowledgement from the community of the success is really causing exponential growth and demand, which was very exciting to see. So this is just some pictures of the different people and clubs. I hear you, I see you, I hear you, and I believe in you. I'm gonna go, okay, so Girls Time. This is Procedure, and if you guys haven't seen our short film yet, we will make sure that is up on the website. But Procedure, who runs Girls Time, she's here with me in this middle picture. She is she's the main person in that video, and it is her story and the impact of the Giving Circle. So this little house, she rents specifically for the club. And so this is what's considered her safe space for Girls Time Club. This is where the kids come. I didn't include a picture here, but this is just in a neighborhood. Like, this is one house and next door is another house. This is, you go down a street and there's several houses. So we've just rented a house. Inside here, the picture on the top left, you can see the inside of the house. And then over here, you see some of the, and Daron down below, the projects of Mercy Sewing. Those are kind of the sewing and craft corner. And so the bags and aprons and skirts and other things that Mercy has been making to sell, and then teaching the kids as well. The conversation that we had where we're all sitting here in a circle, the picture at bottom center is Sunga on the left and Rachel on the right, the two that came over from Livingston, and then Mercy in the orange and yellow top, Procedure, and then Madeline. Oh, well, I guess I have their names below it. But it was a really lovely conversation where we talked about what are the issues that they are having. What is the cost of things? So one of the things that was really interesting, even for them, and to have Rachel and Sunga come over, and then Mercy and Procedure talking, because you're in Zambia versus Zimbabwe, they learned, as did we, that there are some changes in the education system. So in shoot, I'm not remembering which country now. Zambia paid for it now. Mm-hmm. So Zambia pays for their K-12 education now, but Zimbabwe doesn't. Zimbabwe has to pay, it's about is it 300 a year? That was like 100 a quarter term.
Depends on the level, but 300 a year is a round figure, yeah.
That was, the kids have to pay to go to school. So the kids have to pay tuition, and they have to pay for their books, and they have to pay for uniforms, which is extremely expensive for most families. So often, you know, there's a book that they're working from. It's not like everyone has their own textbook because they're expensive. But this is a new change in Zambia, where they are now paying for K-12 education, and the families don't have to pay for that. I'm sure there's other things they still have to pay for, but that's a significant change for the country that influences the level of education that the kids might get. So there was lovely sharing and learning between the mentors, but then we were also able to learn about the challenges the kids have. Oh, in the picture here, bottom right with Procedure and I, you'll see a bookshelf in the back. And so that was a new addition that they were able to implement. And some of it's textbooks, other of it's just general reading for the girls, so that they can check out a book and bring it back and share. They don't have a lot of resources for that. So that was a big deal to have the library started. Daron, do you have any other highlights you want to mention?
Well, we spent quite a bit of time talking that day, and, you know, just sitting around in a circle. And I think it gave us a taste of what the experience would be like for the girls in the clubs in that safe space, where you feel like in this room, you can speak to what you need to share and you will be heard. And so going back to that Thailand of I see you, I hear you, I believe in you, it's not a phrase, it's really that driving north that you see put in action every time you're affiliated with the clubs. And you can feel viscerally how that makes them feel stronger and more a part of the club, and also that they have something to share. So really modeling after these mentors who present themselves in such a strong way it's obvious why the impact is there.
So a lot of the clubs meet on a Saturday or after school. It's, when the kids are available. But the thing about this safe space, and this one is actually in a building, Sve and Shirai, it's under a tree. There's no internet, so each safe space is very different. But we were asking the mentors, like, when do you meet? And a lot of them meet on a Saturday. They said, but this space is available, and like Procedure and Mercy live close. So the girls can call anytime and they'll come over and let them in. Maybe they need to do homework. Maybe they just need to get away. Maybe they need help with tutoring on something. So Procedure said she's over there almost every day, but the actual club meets on a Saturday for the structured kind of instruction. But these mentors are resourceful, a resource for the kids on an ongoing kind of basis. So a few years ago, probably more than 3 or 4 years ago now, Nika here in the blue striped shirt had been working with us, and even though our focus originally was on the girls, there was a real recognition that if we don't bring the boys along, and boys often have an attitude that women are property, women are just there for their benefit, that if we didn't bring the boys along to understand the value of educating a girl, that having their wife educated and working and what that can do for the household and the benefit to them of that, that we weren't going to be able to make progress. Not only, so here you have this educated, confident girl or woman, and it's going to be harder for them to find husbands or partners if you don't have the men also coming along. So Nika spent a good year of time kind of going out, reaching, figuring out kind of the process for that, and then started boys clubs. And he and Prosper run 2 of the boys clubs. But the thing that is important to know is that hopefully you can see that title, Boys Clubs for Girl Empowerment. So it is educating the boys on why they should consider and support having girls be educated and be confident and be employed. And that you are a stronger man when you can support that, because as a whole, the household, the community, the world is a stronger place. So it is really exciting. All of these pictures show the boys with blue shirts on, but some of the clubs, the boys have pink shirts. And that is a big deal for them to be walking around in pink shirts in town, but they're very proud and they speak to that, and they're very much on board. So we went out to Sasonke, which is, this is Nika, that was where Sasonke started, and Talent, who happens to be his wife, runs a girls club, and then Prosper, who is a mentor, does the boys club. So we came and everyone was together, a big full circle, and there was, 40 of us. It was big. And we sat in a big circle, and they asked us questions. They asked us everything from, what do you think about this? How would you have handled that? We talked about what we did for a living. So we talked in a big group about questions they had, and then the boys split off into a group, and Madeline, Rich, and Heather went with them, and then Daron and I went with the girls. And so they split up and then had their normal meeting that they would have for their club. And this happened to be on a Saturday. So this is what's considered rural, not as rural as Faye and Shirai, where we're going to go next in the pictures, but This is probably, would you say, like 5 to 8 minutes out of town, Daron? It wasn't that far.
Very far.
But it's far enough that if you're driving 5 to 8 minutes, the walk is quite a ways to get to. And they are fortunate to have property. So during COVID, they started a garden, and then this helped provide food during COVID for the families in the community. The kids learned about gardening. Talent, who is here with the stove and the cooking pot here in the middle picture, who runs the girls club. She was a teacher in town. Teachers are paid $175 a month for their salary. And she left teaching. She was actually she taught agriculture and something else. But she left teaching because the cost for her to drive into town every day and teach, the cost of gas, I converted, their cost of gas was about $3.50 to $4 a gallon. They sell in liters, but it was about $3.50 to $4 a gallon, which when you think about what their salary is and their ability to then drive into town every day, she wasn't making any money when all was said and done. And so, so she is teaching, being a mentor for a club, but she's using her skills, she's using her agricultural background, started this massively big garden that has a huge amount of food, but taught the kids how to grow, what the importance of the soil is, what the different plants and vegetables are that would grow and how to grow them in the season and how to plant them. And so that has been something that is, just been a huge success story. And others have started their own garden too then as a result. Water really becomes the big issue, to have access to water. When we were there, the tomatoes had really started drooping because the pump had been broken for about 3 days. But we heard the next day that Nika was able to find the time and able to fix it. So they got the garden watered and kept everything. The other thing down here in the bottom left is a picture of me and Love Angel, who was the winner of the Creative Expressions last year. So our Creative Expressions contest is going on right now, which is every year we solicit all of the clubs to have the kids submit entries in the categories of the spoken word, poetry, drawing, arts and crafts, and I think dance maybe. But these are talented kids, and if given the opportunity, boy, they really shine. We got to see them doing their practice before it was recorded for their submission, because this was Saturday and the deadline was Sunday. And so they were doing a practice run before they recorded to submit. But on our website is the Creative Expressions contest. I encourage you to look through the entries and vote. It is a fundraiser for us, so you pay to vote, but it is really, even if you go through and see all the entries, it's really fun to see their creativity. So Love Angel submitted a spoken word poem last year, and she was the winner. As a result of that, because word got around, that was kind of a big deal. Word got around, she went and presented to remind me, Daron, or page.
The UNICEF.
Say again.
It was a UNICEF event in front of the vice president.
Yeah, UNICEF. She went and presented in front of the vice president of Zimbabwe. And so she's made an entry again this year. I relate her to the next Amanda Gorman. She's phenomenal. Yeah. That was really fun to see, though, the dancing. Some entries didn't make it that we got to see. Someone had built a wire car, out of stuff. It was really creative. They're playing soccer down here. Really a tight-knit group, which was fun to see.
I think one thing I'd like to highlight, Heidi, is the depth of conversations that happen in these clubs we were privy to, And we were outsiders, so the trust that was involved there was really immense. But some of the questions that came forth were, about relationships and, how long should you date someone? Or how do you know if you want to get married? Or how do you know if you want to have children? Or how do you help someone that's having an issue with drugs? Or how do you, um, how do you know when you shouldn't help someone anymore if you've helped them too much? I mean, the level of depth in these questions. And I noticed that when we first sat around as a big group, everyone had these notebooks that they carry with them everywhere. And many of them were
Our
jotting,
believe journals.
yes, the belief journals. Almost all of them were jotting down some sort of notes. And then later, when the group split off, I noticed they would resume and they had written down really thoughtful questions from our initial meeting, and then wrote down, further things from there. So just incredibly attentive and just soaking up as much as they could. And I don't cry very often. I'm not a big crier, but the sense of being in this space with these kids and with these mentors, the feeling of it, I couldn't keep myself together, and Heidi cried as well because,
I always cry.
oh my gosh, it's hard to explain, it's hard to put words to it, but you realized in that moment how powerful it was for these kids to have these mentors in their life and to have this club available to them. It was quite literally the difference between path A and then possibilities. And it just really sunk in, like, this is what needs to happen to give them an option to have a different life and to have dreams and possibilities. And you could see it in action. So really, really powerful.
Yeah, we did. We were privileged to have really deep conversations around pregnancy and, the temptation of, getting a phone or something for sex. And it's like, remember, that's one time and you've given that up, versus think about the long term and the price that you're paying for that. Yeah, it was, thank you, Daron, really good conversation. I see I knew we'd be tight on time. So Rise and Shine is even further out. So they're maybe a 15-20 minute drive out of town. And these are pictures from the day. They had already had a lot of their meetings. And so they arranged to have a lot of the kids, like the boys club had met in the morning. This was in the afternoon. So what they did is they brought a lot of the kids together, and then we broke up into groups. And so like Rich and I went and talked to an older group. We talked more about careers, and we talked about our history and kind of the struggles we've had. Daron and Heather worked with the kids, which a lot of these pictures show. They made skirts. And Daron, I'll let you talk about that. And then Madeline got together with a group, again, with her wanting to be a teacher and kind of her education. She connected with a lot of the girls around her path. And then before we got the whole group together, we got to go see, it was Jada's house, right? Jada's house, and the garden that they had started.
Yeah. So when we first got together with this group of gals, they were really, really quiet and they were sort of standoffish. And then Faye said something to them like, "It's just hair." And she came over to me and she lifted up my hair and she did this. And so then individually, this whole group of like 20 girls came over and touched my hair and kind of flipped it a little bit because it was such a different experience for them. And so it was kind of this really fun, very, bonding moment. And after that, it's like, okay, icebreaker over. Now we can we can get to work here. And so it was super, super windy. And so we were each, we had a team of 2 on each skirt, kneeling down on the skirt to keep the wind from blowing them away. And we taught them how to measure their waist and measure the length of the skirt and how to mark on the garment, and took them through this really simple operation that they could very well make their own clothes in this capacity. But the teamwork was beautiful to witness. The spirit of Ubuntu is very much alive and present in everything that you're doing with these kids. And it was wonderful to see them support each other and also encounter something where they didn't know the answer, they didn't know how to do it, but they accepted advice and they put it to action, and then they helped each other. And so you could see how quickly they could distill that information. And the thing about the community garden is everybody is responsible for a row, but then everyone shares. And so, imagine that concept working everywhere, right? Pretty inspiring. So it was a wonderful day in the village, but very different. You pull up and you see this giant water pump, and you see someone really doing a workout, and then at the end there's a bucket, and that's what they're doing to get their water for cooking or dishes or laundry. I'm not sure that was the drinking water, or if that needed to be fully separate. I would assume that was separate, but just the immense amount of effort taken for some simple tasks was quite interesting to see in person.
So they even brought, you can see the hand cranked sewing machine. They brought out a sewing machine. So after they did the cutting, then the girls learned how to sew to make the skirt. And as we wrap up with just a few minutes, but still we'll take questions if we have them. Then we went on safari for a few days out in Hawaii National Park. So I have been fortunate to be on safari several times. I don't see lion every time, but we saw about 30 lion, many cubs, baby cubs. So that was a big deal. Lots of baby elephants, baby zebra. It was pretty great. The number of babies that we saw.
Yeah.
And for me, sunsets are my happy place in Africa. You just can't get better. The sunsets there are just absolutely stunning. I just want to mention a couple things. We have a fundraiser that's going to be held here in Vancouver, Washington on September 10th, which is kind of sharing the creative expressions. It's an art auction and gala. $50 a ticket. We're going to be starting to advertise that soon, but if you're interested, mark your calendar. There will be some great paintings and pottery and glass, several items that we've curated for this as a fundraiser, but also, a connection with the creative aspect of the clubs and the people in Africa. And then on our website, there's many ways to get involved. So please connect there for more ideas. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. And if there are questions, we will gladly take them.
And before, can you hear me?
Yes.
So many wonderful, enlightening experiences and special connections. Thank you, Heidi. Thank you, Daron. That was wonderful. Just takes me back.
Yes.
Okay, any questions? Got to be some questions.
I did see a couple nods in the chat. The Sasanki group just harvested their first group of tomatoes, so that's exciting to see them be all completely wilty and sad to being in fruition. So that's wonderful to see. While we're waiting on a question, something that Heidi and I had talked about in reference to the thought around creativity is just how much the action of creativity is different for everyone. For myself, it's color and texture and layers and interior design and fashion, and for someone else it's drawing, and for someone else it's music. But unless you're able to be exposed and sort of play around and figure out where your innate creativity can really funnel into, you don't fully sort of vest yourself as much as you could. And so it's wonderful to see the kids get so enthralled, and then they can have something that is theirs, that they feel good about and feel empowered, that this is my skill, this is something I'm good at, and can hold on to that. So the creativity contest is so much more than just witnessing the beautiful and intelligent works they've created. It's also a big part of their journey as well in the clubs.
All right, not seeing any questions. We will keep it on time.
Look at that.
Wow.
I want to say thank you so much.
Oh, you're
I-
welcome.
Hi. Hi, Janet.
Experiences. Oh God, that's so wonderful. Thank you. And
You're
you gave us so
welcome.
much information. We don't have any questions because everything. So thank you for getting that done so well. Thank you.
Yeah, our pleasure. All right. Happy Saturday, everyone.
Thank you so much.
So much. That was wonderful.